Hi everybody, this is Allison and Oakley Durant coming to you from my studio here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And there's Oakley in your upper corner there. Oakley, would you like your bone? Okay, let's get that going. So I'm just gonna get Oakley, he's my art director, studio buddy, best friend. So I have his bone all filled, and here you go. He hangs out with me in my studio. And not to date myself, but I guess I am going to date myself with my Artist Almanac calendar. So I have not turned the page since Saturday. So I'm behind. These are beautiful mixed media pages created by a number of artists, contributing artists. They're all on the back here. And they have a Facebook page, but I don't know how active it is. And I don't think they're going to continue this little 2025 Artist Almanac for future years, but I hope they do because it's just super cute. And these pages, when torn off, they can be considered collage fodder. So today is Thursday, July 17th, and this is just a neat fabric piece, has a lot of texture in there, and I love that stitching. And today it is really, really wet to the point of a little bit of flooding. It's very dark here in Calgary this morning, and I just thought I'm gonna squeeze in a video because life is gonna get busy for me in the next couple weeks. And so this is my video that will hold us over for a little while, so at least for probably the rest of July. Excuse me. So again, this is the 2025 Artist Almanac calendar, and this is today's date, Thursday, July 17th, just to date myself. And I do these videos here to find calm, to stay present in the moment. And I really appreciate this community and all the joy and connection that it brings. And so I have my artist, my art poetry deck, my 71 artist card deck. And this just happened to be one of the cards that was I left the card deck open when I was going through preparing for some of the things I wanted to show for this video. So this one is Stay Grounded and Center Yourself. So that's one of my art poetry paintings. And then this is what the back of the cards look like. They have that beautiful gold foiling shimmer for the polka dots. And so I just thought I'd share that one because it was flipped up today. And to show you what I am working on. Excuse me. I think the weather, there's some allergies flying around with all the rain. I did want to show you these little panels. These are cradled wood panels, and these are the original artworks of some of my artist cards. So this original was done on 140-pound watercolor paper. It's primarily watercolor with a little bit of mixed media. You can see it has a gorgeous sheen, and that's the Dorland's wax medium, which I have right in front of me. That's what I use to protect and sort of finish my watercolors. So it's by a company called Jacquard, and it's Dorland's wax medium, which those of you that are familiar with mixed media and different types of wax layering, this is a cold wax medium. This is also great if you do art journaling, and if you're primarily a watercolor artist, you can put the Dorland's wax medium, you can buff it on the pages in your art journal so they don't stick together over time. So I'm just gonna see if I can find, excuse me. So here's an example of one of my journals. And so if I didn't want, gonna see if Oakley needs to go out. I'm just gonna leave this page up for a moment. See if he's finished his bone. Oh my gosh, that was fast. He's already finished his bone. Anyways, but yeah, the Dorland's wax medium, if you get a paper towel, I like to wear gloves. It has a tiny bit of an odor, and you should do it in a well-ventilated space, but you basically would just grab a dollop of wax medium, not a whole lot, and just buff it on with the paper towel. Give it a nice even coat, let it dry for 24 hours, and then go back to it, and then what you can do is buff it out. So if you were to revisit it 24 hours later, or 48, or for these, probably a year later, I had just learned more about the wax medium, and I knew that I needed to buff it out more. So this, again, is an original art poetry watercolor painting on paper, and I had just really felt like doing like a rough torn edge and adding gesso around the side just to make it more textured, because the painting itself is quite smooth, quite flat. So I love that it adds interest to that piece. And I had put Trust Your Intuition on the back of this little original. You can see I sign up the side. And then this was the reproduction of that original. I have a bit of a tremor today. I had some caffeine, and it's been a busy, busy week. Here is just another one to show you an example. So this is my card, Capture the Moments and Hold Them Close. And this reminds me of a photo that my parents had taken when I was probably about 2 or 3 years old. And I was sitting with my brother, and I often had bonnets on. My mom would put bonnets on me because everyone thought I looked like a boy. And I think she thought if I had a white lacy bonnet or a pink bonnet that they would then not mistaken me for a boy. And I think I was quite bald for a while. So anyway, that's just a little story that goes with that card. And this was just an abstract piece that it's just the way it turned out. I could see an image of myself almost just sitting on the beach, almost as though there's a sandcastle in front of me. And I have beautiful gold shimmer in here, lovely gold watercolors. I think that's Dreamer's Gold by Beam Paints. And again, this has a wax finish. And there was only four art poetry cards with the originals that I could share. I do have a couple originals out of the 71 cards I had created for the deck, but just these ones were created with the purpose of the art deck. So here's the other one. This one's Allow for Abundance and Be Open to Receive. And again, I had just buffed this out, so it's quite a workout. I put my whole arm, bicep, triceps, all the muscles into it, and it just has that gorgeous sheen. You need to know the mixed media elements that you have, that you're working with, because if you used an oil-based paint, of course the Dorland's wax medium would just rub it right off. So you have to just experiment, be mindful, and this works beautifully over watercolor and acrylics and gouache, but you might need to use like a fixative for some of the materials you use, and it's all just about experimentation and seeing what works. Just when you think you have a system down, then you get a happy accident. You have to rethink the whole process. This is another one I really love. It turned out quite a bit more saturated in the card. So this is the card, and of course the lighting again is not great. And then this is the original art. And I love this piece. It's so simple. Something about the gold and that beautiful thin, almost like tissue paper. I forget which paper this was, with the fine gold liner pen. I had used the Uniball Signo Gold Japanese pen for that. And I think I used a slightly brighter gold for that leaf to kind of pop out. And so find calm and peaceful moments in your day. And of course, when you reproduce something into print, you lose the shimmer often. You lose the metallics. there are ways, really good photographers, printers, digital creators, there is a way to kind of Photoshop shimmer into your work if you are creating original artwork that you love the metallics and you want to put them into print. And also with watercolor, you do get, again, that saturated look if it's reproduced. So just a little tip on that. This one did not make it to my art poetry card deck. I had done this beautiful piece on paper. I wanted to use more purples and yellows and fuchsias, as those are not colors I typically use in my work. And then right when I was editing the deck and deciding what goes in and what stays, this one says find magic in each moment. I did not reproduce this into print because I used it's like a Nepalese Lokta paper or some type of a collage paper, but this tiny little moon is actually not my work. So that was a piece of collage that I had used, and you know, again, it's primarily my original artwork, but I want to be really mindful about royalty-free images, royalty-free papers. I like to now make all of my own hand-painted papers. And of course, I wouldn't want to reproduce anything into print that is commercial, not my own. So that's why this one did not make the cut. So this is an original piece that I just chose to mount to the panel because I thought it was kind of cute. And it's very magical to me, very mystic. And again, that's, yeah, just something I wanted to share. And also what we are gonna do for, you know, in my last video, I was introducing my artist friend, Yevheniia, and she does the most beautiful, beautiful watercolor work. And we had just gotten together this past week to do a video, and she was going to teach all of you how to do this, how to mount watercolor paper in an embroidery hoop. This is something I really haven't seen a whole lot, and you know, even looking online, and Yev is from the Ukraine, and I don't know if this is just a really popular process there. I'll have to check in with her, but this is her work, so I'm going to link her Instagram profile, or probably her website as well. I believe she just opened her website. And check out these vegetables. I do not paint watercolor vegetables. I don't paint realistic, and these are just so stunning. Now, instead of the Dorland's wax medium, Yev uses, you know, she could definitely use a wax medium at this point. If this is just watercolor, she could buff this out. You do run into the risk of getting dust particles in the white space. So that's just one kind of heads up. If you have a lot of white space in your work, this does collect dust really easily. So just to be mindful what kind of cloth you're using to get the wax on. And when you have your work drying, the wax is drying, you want to almost cover it gently, like almost like with a tent of wax paper or parchment paper. So wherever you've put it to kind of off gas or air out, you don't want dust falling on the piece. So she said she used a very fine UV spray. And of course, with watercolor art, no matter what you do to protect it, you will get you know, exposure to light, etc., the elements. You know that things will fade with time, no matter how archival a product is. That's just sort of an artist challenge that we face. And so she just said, you know, not to put these in direct sunlight. And, you know, she repurposes embroidery hoops from thrift stores and fixes them up. And these are just so lightweight. This is a 10-inch embroidery hoop. And I'm gonna find a spot in my kitchen for this. I just love it. And so we will do a video probably, but we have not had great lighting here. I'll see how this video turns out today. And also she's just out of the city, so we're not in as close proximity to get together often, so we'll have to see if we can kind of revisit that. But I thought I would just share her work and let you see what I was talking about if you're one of my regular followers. So I'm just going to put these aside. And I'll show you this beautiful piece. This is glass, so you will see a reflection. I can wave to you all in the piece today. And yeah, I love the way she paints from, she's a wonderful gardener. She has the most beautiful flowers and herbs and vegetables in her own garden, and she just pulls that inspiration into her work. So, you know, a while ago I had found this, a pocket guide to herbs. I used to call them herbs when I was younger, an illustrated guide to herbs. And I had just bought this at Indigo Canada years ago, before I was an artist actually, and I just really wanted to learn a little bit about different herbs. So, you know, thinking about the books that you have at home and where might you be able to draw unique inspiration from. We often think about painting flowers and leaves and, you know, landscapes in art. But I love the idea of painting herbs and, you know, wildflowers, weeds, dandelions. It's just kind of a neat concept to me. And so I was really attracted to Yev's painting, and she identified what everything was with beautiful pencil writing. So there's spearmint down here, a California poppy, there's lemon thyme, parsley, sage, and cilantro. And so, you know, what might you have at home in your own library, or what could you maybe borrow from your local library, where you could just maybe draw some inspiration from? Sometimes it helps, you know, instead of just staring at the blank page, how do you break a blank page? You know, just, you know, getting outside in your environment when you can, the fresh air, your surroundings, and just even considering those things that, you know, are not traditional images you might paint. There's so many in here I haven't even heard of. Oh, garlic, isn't that interesting? I wouldn't have known that was garlic. Chives, I love chives. Aloe vera. So you get the idea, but this is just such a beautiful book. And a beautiful artwork by Yev. And so I'm just gonna move this. And today, trying to decide, I'm just gonna I'm gonna pull a card from, this is a new card deck that I had just purchased and I still haven't done a video on, but it was just super cute. I found it here at Indigo Canada. And Indigo's a really, it's a beautiful bookstore, but they also have a lot of, you know, cards and gifts and not just books. So this little Houseplant tarot, it just made me think of Yev actually when we were talking about plants and herbs and enjoying greenery, and how so much joy is brought from just green hues and making us feel like we're right back in nature. So this says, calling all plant parents, celebrate your favorite houseplants from cute cacti to fiddle leaf figs with this indoor plant themed twist on the classic tarot card deck and guidebook. So I'm not gonna actually use the guidebook, I don't think. I'm just gonna keep this video short today, just as a way of saying hello. With all the rain, my son is usually in a couple hours of bike camp in the mornings here, and we have not been able to attend just because of all the risk of flooding, and they don't have an indoor option, and so life has gotten a bit busy for me this summer. And I'm just gonna flip through and pull a card here. It's sorry, Oakley. Oakley jumps at loud noises because he came from the streets of California, and when he was found, his hair was all grown over his eyes. He couldn't see. He was totally matted, totally malnourished, and so he does jump at loud noises. He seems very at peace over here. I think he's a bit sad because he knows he may not be going out unless he gets on a rain jacket. So these are very stiff because I've only opened this box once. It's just for fun. We'll just pull a card and see what we get. The King of Potted Trees. Okay, I am going to use the guidebook because that's just gonna, let's just see. Whoops, the King of Potted Trees. Let's see. Where's my little, there we go. The King of Potted Trees, Yucca. So, like the independent, low-maintenance yucca tree, the Knight of Potted Trees is a motivated self-starter. Invest time and energy in building your skills and reputation, and you'll have a comfortable life in the future. When inverted, the Knight of Potted Trees represents an indulgent person who's lacking motivation and drive. If you're feeling unfocused, set new goals for yourself and come up with a step-by-step plan to achieve them. Okay, so I didn't give you the full lowdown on this, but what a cute gift idea for somebody who loves plants and is creative or just may need a little inspiration. So it would be fun just to do, you know, some drawings of maybe the card that you've chosen and how you feel it's sort of connected to you on the day that you've picked it. I'll just leave that up. And so this is illustrated by Andrea Campos, and it is, the book was done by Minerva Siegel. So I'll link that. Look at that. Really, really cute. That reminds me a little bit of the artist Carolyn Gavin, who uses the most beautiful, bright, colorful watercolors and gouache, and she is an art teacher online. I think she's from South Africa, Carolyn Gavin, and she creates as well the most beautiful faces, plants. I had taken one of her classes one time on, I think it was Creative Bugs website, their kind of host website, and this just reminds me of her. It's super cute and actually very simple. It's something I could work with. And I'm just going to pull a card from my art poetry card deck. So at the beginning of the video you saw some of the cards, and I'm just going to do not much of a shuffle today. And I really like this, Be Present. So this is a painting, a watercolor painting I had titled In the Elements 2. And it was shortly after I had painted my In the Elements 1 painting, just In the Elements I called it, the original In the Elements. And it had the beautiful turquoises, and it was, actually it's something I can just show you here on the wall. It's a huge 38 by 48 canvas print right here. And so that's In the Elements, the original one, and this is In the Elements 2. And a lot of my clients said, you know, do you have anything more that would be horizontal instead of vertical? There's a lot of horizontal walls above people's living room, you know, their couches or their kitchen tables. And so this one, it doesn't look it, it's quite square, but it can be pulled out to be a bit more of a horizontal print. And this just says be present. So be present in this moment and whatever this moment brings. And this reminds me that I need more greenery in my home. My dad teases me that all of my, well, I have to buy things that thrive on neglect, like cactus plants, because I just get so busy, and I even forget sometimes to nurture my cactus plant, whether it's like once a month with a spritz of water. I don't have a green thumb. I guess that comes out in the green paint I use with my artwork. And so I'm just going to check how we are for time today. I'm fairly limited today, but I just wanted to show you a couple things what I'm working on. Actually, something I can do right now is grab my acrylic inks. I'm going to grab this one, Sepia by Rowney, my FW ink. And I'm going to be teaching in Calgary once a month, September through December. And I'm going to be teaching inky botanicals, and I'm going to photograph a poster, an image that I can use to advertise this class locally. So what I want to do is actually show you, I've done a good job of shaking up this permanent acrylic ink, and with the ink dropper, I'm very jittery, but I'm just going to go just as a practice. Inky botanicals. So this is permanent ink. I'm going to grab not my good brush. I'm going to grab a smaller, do I have a smaller brush? This Crayola round number 12, I think. This is quite big, but I'm going to get it wet. Acrylic ink is really hard on the brushes, and I'm just going to kind of pull out into a little bit of a leaf shape, maybe there, and maybe just over here. And this is just sort of experimental to show you what you can do with acrylic inks. I wouldn't be happy enough with this as a start, but I just want to share with you. I'm gonna wet my watercolor brush, and I'm just gonna press down almost as though there's just some petals here, and maybe press down with water almost in a petal shape. So this brush is lovely because when you push down on it, you can just kind of get that shape. And because my water is dirty, you don't need a ton of water. I'm just painting with dirty water right now, and then I'm gonna grab, the only colors I have that are quite vibrant is this FW Fluorescent Red, and I'm just gonna drop it down, maybe a little bit up here, a little bit down there. You can just see how the water follows, or sorry, the pigment follows the water. I'm gonna then use Liquitex acrylic ink in yellow orange. I'm gonna go right in this sort of nearby area here. And I'm okay that the colors are mixing. I think it's really interesting. And I just wanted to show you, you know, this is sort of a petal here. I can kind of continue drawing out my petals. If I wanted to make that an even bigger flower. And if I had a skewer, I could pull down this into, I could pull down, I'm just gonna wet the end of the brush, and I could create more of a loose stem here. I don't have a skewer, but I can just use, whoops, the end of my paintbrush. Now if I had a green, I would pop that in there. Speaking of popping, I had to get that little, that bubble. And I think for the class anyway, I want to teach maybe my chubby birds, but definitely just some loose botanicals. And so I'm painting again with the dirty water, and I'm going to go to a different color. This is, again, the only thing I have, the Cerulean blue. So I'm gonna mix it in with that yellow, just at the base, drop it in. Really didn't need that much ink. Maybe a little bit over here. And you're getting a really interesting green with the mixing, at least over here we are. So I'm just gonna pick up some of that green, and maybe, you know, maybe I wanna do, yeah, I don't have a skewer. I'm gonna wet the end of my paintbrush and just try and draw a line and connect these ones. And that worked. It's quite interesting. And then again, what color is on my brush, pushing my cheap Crayola brush down, and now I have a beautiful green. And again, I'm just kind of not overthinking it. I'm even gonna touch the colors here just to blend them, and maybe pull through to have a wider stem here. And just showing, you know, how fast you can create with acrylic inks, how much it can teach you about color mixing. So that yellow with the cerulean blue, how you can just see it starting to create a bit of a green in here. You know, just kind of going over top in different areas to create an abstract painting. You know, almost creating like little tulips up here with the rest of the paint, the ink. I love that fluorescent red. It's really beautiful. So again, this is just sort of experimental. And you can see I have a lot of black that still hasn't dried in here, so you know, I can pick that up. I'm just gonna hold my arm because it's shaky. There's the K. We're just gonna go big. And you know, and then I'm gonna use the design of the brush and just see what interesting marks I can make. Okay, that's really, really interesting. And that's because this is a really cheap brush that has sort of been worn, and so unlike other watercolor brushes, it hasn't kind of held that beautiful watercolor tip. But thinking of, you know, what do you have around your house? Do you have, you know, skewers, like those fruit skewers, kebab skewers? You know, can you make different shapes with your brush? And I'm just gonna again pull down this over here. And really, I'm just kind of making a really playful mess, just to show you kind of what you can do. We'll do a little base on these yellow flowers. And again, you don't want to use a good brush. You want to get as much ink off before you dip into your water. And again, the dirty water is a really good map in order to do more of these. I could drop more colors in here if I wanted. I have a, this is an India ink, so this is, it's different. So I'm not going to get into the properties so much, but you can definitely drop in some different colors. If they're not spreading around as much as you'd like, you can kind of help them. So I would just, you know, where the water goes, the pigment will follow. So I'm just kind of giving the flower a little bit more depth. And, you know, maybe adding a little of that interesting burgundy or kind of rusty color up in the top area there. And I think I'll probably leave you all with just that little experiment today. And I wanted to share my best friend who is going through a very challenging health journey right now. And I just wanted to share this little painting I had done just as a reminder that there are brighter days ahead. And whatever you're going through, just remember your strength and how are you feeling in this moment without kind of playing forward, what you feel the journey is going to entail, but how are you in this moment? And can you just, pause, take some really deep breaths, and just know that there are brighter days ahead. So this painting, this is one that I had done on cradled panel, and I had used the wax finish, and I had done it on Strathmore brown toned paper. So there are brighter days ahead. And and one last thing, I was gonna use, this is something I want to do with you all, is collage with, this is the paper I use to clean my brushes. So for those of you that follow me, if I do an art poetry painting, say like a painting like this, and then my brush still has watercolor on it, I would then get the paint off sort of on another sheet. And then what I would do is I would use this 90 to 98 pound paper for collage, so torn up collage like this, and I would incorporate it into my painting. So here's another one. This is on a stronger piece of paper, and what I have done as an experiment is I have coated these papers with Dorland's wax medium. So I just want to show you a quick experiment. I do have a spray bottle. So I just want to share with you, for those of you that do watercolor, if this gets wet, this will totally smudge, if not right away, over time. And I just want to show you, because I put a coat of the wax medium on, I'm going to take my spray bottle and spritz it on, and you can see that the wax repels the water. So even if I rub it around, nothing moves. And so just to share with you that is just so beautiful, because you can only use this as a top layer of collage, of course, because it's wax. You might be able to use oil paint or oil pastels. I don't spend much time with oil. I've never done oil paints at all, and I don't use oil pastels very often, but I just wanted to share this with you because I hope to do some collage with you all. And just to share, you have these paintings that if you think, oh, this would be a really beautiful collage element, I love these colors, I can I can take this out in the rain today and nothing is gonna move. Which is just so great, because historically I was creating paintings with watercolor collage in them as a final layer, and I was getting the smudging effect, and it was a happy accident. I would turn it into something interesting with acrylic paint and the smudged watercolor. But if you like more of a clean look, I just wanted to share with you that this is a really cool option. So I think I'll probably leave you with that. And if you have some acrylic inks laying around, just to remember to kind of think outside of the box with, you don't need a fancy watercolor brush. All you need is a water reservoir, an empty yogurt container, a cheap Crayola, or, just a cheap, any kind of brush really. The watercolor brushes, of course, even if they're cheaper, they would hold more water than, say, like a hardware store paintbrush, but you can use what you have. You can also dip, the end of, if you have those, what are they called? Those, I think they're dip pens, but those Japanese, I have a special pen actually that I like to use as, when people used to dip feathers in ink and would write. Just think about those tools that you might have laying around. And if you have purchased acrylic ink and you're just not sure where to go with it, maybe considering a playful art journal book, something like a Canson mixed media 140-pound book. This is a great one. This is Artist Loft, heavyweight paper, very affordable. So from Michael's here in Canada, and it's 11 by 14 inches, 140 pounds. And this, actually, I did an experiment. This holds a lot of acrylic ink. I unfortunately spilled acrylic ink, and I grabbed this book and mopped it up to use this as a background for another painting. And but this is a fairly good weight for the inks and for watercolor if you just want something affordable but that will hold the pigment. Okay, thanks for staying with me, and I hope to see you all soon. It might not be until August that I get another video out, but you know me, I kind of get on a roll and then I go quiet for a while, and that's just my process because my family life comes first always. I have a young family, I have a family that works in healthcare, and I also have my best friend going through a lot, so I'm on and off, but I tell you, I get so much from this community, from you all, your comments and your support. It means so much to me, so I feel really grateful to be here. Thank you, and I will try and list all the products in the description.